Welcome to the Best by the Worst. The best movies of all time, reviewed by the worst possible critics. If you don't believe us, keep listening to find out.
Barrett.
Welcome back.
How you been, mate?
Welcome back to the Barrett podcast. 4 in a row.
Don't worry, one of these days, the start of the episode will just be me and be an empty chair and across from me.
Oh,
Maybe the Aleks podcast.
Maybe if my dream comes true,
What was your dream?
that we're going to have an argument and cancel the podcast. This beer smells ridiculous.
Yeah, wow, the smell. Strawberry bubblegum sour.
Yeah.
What's the brewery?
Fat Brewing.
Fat Brewing.
Yeah.
Like spelled PH, right?
Yeah, spelled PH. I wonder if they could be a sponsor.
They're not a sponsor, but could be.
Could be. And this week, we have a special guest.
Who? Oh, Joel.
Oh, hey. Hi.
Hence why we're wearing blazers, because we have our first celebrity on the podcast.
Exactly. So we didn't really complete the whole rest of the ensemble. At least I didn't, because I was running out the door and just grabbed a jacket because I told me to, but
I'm also wearing a
I made an
jacket,
effort.
t-shirt, and tracksuit pants.
Oh, perfect. You didn't
You're
get
lying
the
about the pants, aren't you? No one can see you wearing pants.
I don't have any pants on.
No, that's what I said.
Oh, we should just stop wearing pants.
That's a good option.
Nah.
I see you didn't get the memo.
No, I didn't. No.
However, you're looking very fly. This
Thank
looks
you.
custom as. For anyone that can't see it because you're only listening, Joel's wearing a jumper made completely out of money.
I mean, it has the designs of money on it. It's not made out of it.
Not the way I'm telling it. It's made out of money.
Have you ever been short on change and cut a section out of your jumper and tried to pay?
I think it's legal tender, to be honest.
Right.
But, yeah.
But could be.
I'll email the RBA and see if they can make a change in the law.
Perfect.
Ah, amazing. Well, welcome, Joel.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming to join us.
Yeah.
All right.
It's been a big week because we watched a very important movie.
Did we?
Well, to cinema, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
To me, I don't really understand what happened. And this podcast is going to take a bit of an interesting
Oh,
turn compared to previous episodes, because
Yeah.
usually it's me trying to tell what I've interpreted the plot as. This one, I don't really know what happened.
And it's funny, too, because one of my fun facts or special comments that I wrote down was kill Barrett. You were very irritating.
Oh, wow.
But lucky for you, you have me and Joel.
Yeah.
On the Aleks and Joel in the Morning podcast.
All right. I just want to get through a few facts about the movie to start off, and then you can intro the year. And then Joel's going to give us some money facts.
I am so pumped for the
I think,
facts.
you know, I don't know, he's into money or something.
Oh, yeah, we should probably answer that question. Joel isn't just a random one of our guests and friends, even though he is random friend
International worldwide
and
sensation.
guest, but he's also an international sensation.
Yeah.
International far out.
What do you do, Joel?
So I run a Instagram TikTok account called The History of Money. With about 200,000 followers across Instagram and TikTok, talking about all things coin and banknote collecting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And if you keep it up, mate, in a few years, you might be as successful as us.
Yeah. You should see our following. I
if
think
success-
we've got 300,000-400,000 followers at this
I
point.
thought it was 300 million. Ah, who's counting?
I think we've got 3 or 4 followers.
I mean, if success is regressive, then sure, yeah.
We don't do it for the followers. We do it for the love of cinema.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And we are the
I was
worst
about to say
critics.
for the love of money, but I forgot that's the wrong Instagram.
All right. So we just finished watching the 1943 winner of Best Picture, Casablanca.
And who hasn't heard of Casablanca, right?
I think even I'd heard of this movie. Hadn't seen it, but heard of it.
Everyone. So we knew it was a big one, which is why we wanted to bring on a very special guest. And yeah, we watched it. Obviously not going to say what we thought of it straight away, but certainly better than some of the stuff we've watched recently.
Oh, yes. By far.
Yeah, and that's big for you to say, considering you don't even know what happened.
I don't even know what happened, but the bar was not set high after the last 2 movies.
Yeah, there was some pretty big rubbish. Last movie I really struggled through.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie's like rated 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a
right?
big deal.
And it's
Yeah.
considered, like, everywhere you look, it's like, one of the best movies of all time in some national registry. It's always considered like a landmark in cinema, right? I'm not going to necessarily say it belongs in that echelon or level, but that's just my opinion. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But definitely better than last week.
Stop banging the table. I was
sorry.
editing an episode this morning, and all you can hear the entire time is you bang, bang, bang.
Oh, I like to move my hands.
I know.
Very emotive.
I had to take the clicky pen off you. Now I've got to tell you to stop. Don't touch the microphone.
Yes.
Don't bang the table.
Yeah, yes, Dad.
All right. The movie had a budget of $1 million. Or, how much would that be today, Joel?
I don't know. You didn't give me the inflation calculator.
I thought you were the money man.
Yeah.
I've been exposed. Great.
$18 million.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Today.
fair enough.
Still pretty low budget.
Yeah, pretty small budget. Everyone in the movie is dead.
Oh, that's
Damn.
Yeah.
Which is real disappointing because we finally found someone who was alive.
Yeah, so up until this point, every movie, everyone has been dead. Until the last movie, someone was still alive.
And it's probably worth noting as well that Barrett did take the time to try and locate this person to bring him onto the podcast as a special guest.
Yeah.
Do a call in. He wasn't successful though.
No, I did go on a deep dive. I spent about an hour trying to find this guy's agent. I thought it would be a great surprise for you, even if it cost me like a couple $100.
I appreciate it. Like, it would have been great for a cameo or something with this guy. But the guy's also like 90 years old, so we had to be realistic. But one day.
Yeah. We've got to wait for them not only to be alive, but also be able to use technology.
True. Yeah. So by the time we get to the year 2000, we might have some luck.
All right. Loose plot. Cafe, bar, music, love triangle.
I don't know how you can do that
what?
short plot and not include the word Nazi in it.
I did not see that coming. How do you get that?
I don't know. That's what I took away from
There's a big hole in that.
That's what I took away from the movie.
There's a big hole in there too.
This is the Roast Barrett podcast. All right. 1943. What happened, Alex?
Some stuff. Lots of war stuff, as has been the case for the last few years. But I'll go through 1943. So one that directly relates to the movie, I thought that was cool. So in this year, it's the first US president to visit a foreign country during wartime. So FDR, he goes over to Casablanca.
Oh, what?
And it wasn't just him. So the leaders from like the UK,
Oh, yes. The
a
Allies.
few others.
Yeah.
They had a conference over there. So the Allied forces had a conference in Morocco, or Casablanca, that's more specifically. Stalin couldn't go because the Battle of Stalingrad was happening at the time and he couldn't leave Moscow, all the rest of it. But the rest of them met up there in Casablanca. We watched.
Wow.
Fun fact. Yeah. I've also got here Mussolini dismissed as prime minister and arrested. So in that conference that they had, they also were strategizing around the Allied attack and what they're going to do. And part of that was attacking Sicily, and I think Italy were getting pumped. So, yeah, that eventually led to Mussolini getting thrown out. Yeah, the downfall of the Axis powers is occurring. Also, Germany losing Stalingrad. So the Soviets win. First major defeat of the Germans and kind of changed the whole tide of the war.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, just for the uneducated, what was that battle?
Well, I talked about it in the last podcast, I
Yes.
forget. So just for those that didn't listen to the last one. So Battle of Stalingrad was obviously the German forces going to the east. Stalingrad was a city in Russia that was strategically super important because it was close to this river and it was where they were making a lot of their, munitions and war stuff and connected to the rest of kind of Russia. Super, super important, right?
Yeah.
So neither side wanted to give it up. And the Russians basically just refused to give it up to a point where they were just dying left, right, and center. And rough estimates have it at 1.1 million dead Russians.
Yep.
Just to hold on to that city, and eventually, they won.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were
Big
well outnumbered at the
fatalities.
beginning, and then they came back and
Yeah.
pushed them back completely.
And there was basically just this, not strategy, but rule of no retreat. Basically, it was if you go, we'll shoot you. Like you will stay in that city until the Germans are defeated. And they did. Yeah. But there was nothing left of the city. It was dust, basically.
Right.
Yeah. So Italy surrender as a result of that a little bit later on. So big change. Oz fact, not a pleasant one, but an Oz fact anyway. So the Australian hospital ship Centaur sinks off the coast of Queensland after it was hit with a torpedo by a Japanese sub.
Oh.
Yeah, not very nice. 268 out of 332 medical people died.
Oh,
Yeah,
Not good.
not pleasant.
yeah, no.
So yeah, really just lots of war stuff.
Probably another year after that, and then we should be all good.
Oh, yep, until we get to the 60s.
Oh, no.
Seeing as you consider yourself a coin expert,
Yes.
do you know any financial
Yeah, so
things from that year?
also related, Operation Bernhard was in progress. So this is an operation that carried out by the Nazis in concentration camps, where they got artists who were in those camps to make forged banknotes.
No.
Mostly forged British banknotes. So British banknotes were, in terms of design and aesthetic, were pretty easy to forge. They were just essentially giant pieces of white paper with some writing on it. In terms of the operation, they made about £300 million worth of forged banknotes.
Wow.
And about 125 million got into circulation, to the point they were dropping them over England, paying off people across Europe. And there was a lot of money. The process went for a good 4 or 5 years in that time in order to fund different aspects of the war effort, because obviously no one was going to accept German marks or whatever in that case, because the money was useless.
Yeah.
And they also got to a point of progression that they were actually making high quality US dollars as well at the same time. And so by the end of it, British estimate there were about 15 to 20 million pounds circulating freely, and it led to a point where they had to demolish, or they had to get demonetized all high denomination banknotes. Anything above £5 were gone, and they had to redesign the £5 note, and then slowly, progressively introduce new denominations over the next 20, 30 years from there, because essentially threatened the viability of its banknote currency system due to the sophisticated forgeries, but to the point that there were actually marks in the forgeries that were deliberately left there to tell there was a forgery, but only the Nazi Germany, or I guess the people that were operating the operation, knew what the forgeries were. But to the average untrained eye, if a British citizen got a forgery in the hands, no one could tell the difference between the notes.
Wow.
So it's pretty big.
That
Yeah,
is crazy.
Yeah.
Literally printing your own money
That's
to
awesome.
help fund your war.
yeah, pretty much. It was insane.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you know if there's any of those still kicking around?
Yeah, one of my best mates bought one from a banknote dealer a few years ago. And he's still relatively affordable. You're paying about $300-400 a pop minimum for a good condition forgery.
Yeah.
But obviously they're trying to destroy him as much. But it's a great big piece of numismatic history. And to see him and compare him against a genuine one. Yeah, those were very well made forgeries.
Wow.
Wow.
There you go. Far out.
There you go, money fact.
That's
Love that. You make my facts look like shit. You can leave.
I'm carrying this podcast.
you two are carrying this episode. I'm saying that right now. This episode's going to take a bit of a flip, and it's going to be Alex and Joel explaining to Barrett what just happened.
Okay, well, on that note, you want me to kind of lead in with what this movie is, what it's about?
Yeah, come on.
Alrighty. Okay. So, Casablanca. It is a movie.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah. Okay, so basically it starts off with a bit of a narration, kind of talking a little bit about current state of play, which is obviously World War II, so it's right in that, so it's set in the same time. And it talks about the refugee route from Paris, so Paris obviously being invaded by the Nazis, and then refugees fleeing from Paris into Marseille, and then across the water basically to eventually reach Casablanca, which is in French-controlled Morocco. In like the northern Horn of Africa, and then from there getting to Lisbon, which is this refugee route they're taking to get eventually to Lisbon, where they can then travel to America. That's right, yeah?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
That was all the places, maybe another couple stops in between, but basically that was the end game. Get to Casablanca, and then from there, a lot of refugees were there trying to get additional funds and all the rest of it to get papers and visas and whatever else that you needed to get to Lisbon so that they could get to America. That was the end game. But it seemed that a lot of people were getting stuck in Casablanca because by the time you got through all those other places, you run out of funds and all the refugees were selling the jewelry and all the rest of it to get there, and then that was a bit of a holding point. And then it kind of cuts into Casablanca, where the whole movie pretty much now just takes place, and not that many scenes or sets, it seems, and primarily takes place in this cafe called Rick's.
Cafe
Rick's Cafe, was that Rick's Cafe American?
Yes, that's it.
That's it,
So
yes.
I'm just going to refer to it as Rick's just to make it easier. And Rick's also one of the main characters, played by Humphrey Bogart, right? So his character is Rick, and it's his cafe.
Yeah.
But that intro part, I forgot how long intros are in old movies. It's just lots of writing and then dramatic music. Then you hear the French anthem out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then you see that intro. And the fact that they actually created a full-on globe, complete with topography and smoke, was just like...
It looked good.
It looked good. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I want to drop my first fact in here because I do have facts, even though I don't understand the movie.
Drop it in.
I have the facts. So it was based on a play. Anyone pick that up? Yeah. It was called "Everybody Comes to Rick's." Was the name of the play, and it was actually unproduced. So it was written as a play, but never produced as a play. Warner Brothers purchased it for $200,000. No, sorry, $20,000, which would be $320,000 today.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Far out.
And then I'm just going to drop the next one here as well because it's around the same thing. But you were saying how, I guess you're saying it's shot, well, not exclusively, but mostly a lot of indoor scenes in this cafe/bar. We would probably refer to it more as a bar, but it was called a cafe in the movie. Nearly the whole thing was shot in a studio.
Oh.
Yeah, in America. So it like a few of the outdoor scenes were shot in location, but yeah, most of it was shot inside a studio, which I don't think we've seen yet.
Well, yeah, and I guess you could have in this movie because it really was just mostly taking place inside that cafe.
Yeah.
I mean, because it wasn't really that expensive, couldn't they just done it in Casablanca? Wouldn't that just felt better?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, famous things shot in cafes, Casablanca. Friends. Home and Away. Neighbours.
Perfect. We should open a cafe.
I think so. And
the other one?
run by Harold.
How I Met Your Mother? That's in a bar.
That's a bar. Same premise, really. But yeah, it was just but you did sort of realize that's the origin of something like that. It's, a lot of single shot scenes. A lot of what I loved about the opening part was a lot of focus on the one-on-one conversations.
Yep.
They gave you the real sense of what the environment was, what the main themes were, etc., which was really good.
A couple other things I really liked about this movie that we picked up really early from the start was much more fast-paced than a lot of the movies we've been watching recently. Conversations are happening, they're quick and fast, get to the next scene, more conversations, more plot. There's not a lot of filler, there's not a lot of junk. Runtime, only 104 minutes, I think it was. Again, not over 2 hours long. It was fast, it was pacey. I was so glad that it wasn't 2.5 hours.
Yeah, same.
So definitely appreciated that. But, that up and pace was so good because it's more like what modern cinema is now, right?
Yeah.
It was way less filler and drag.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But basically, after they get that dialogue open, they're in Rick's cafe.
Yep.
They pretty much introduce Rick pretty quickly as one of the main actors. Humphrey Bogart is a bit of a weapon too. Good actor. But you pretty quickly work out his character in this movie. He seems really bitter and cynical and just super unhappy. You don't know any reason why. It comes out later, but that's the kind of character he is. He says it many times that he's now just looking after himself. He's not really getting into too much of the noise that's happening around him with people trying to obviously get into Lisbon. It's French territory still.
Yeah.
It's, not occupied as such, but the Germans certainly are. The Nazis are in the area and they have control or at least heavy influence over what goes on there. So there's kind of a couple other main characters there where there's this French officer who's kind of like the head French guy that we see that looks after the police.
Prefect police, yeah.
And then there's, Nazis and one guy in particular, a Nazi major who's in town. And, he seems to be the head honcho running things. Kind of telling that French guy what to do. And then, Rick's kind of just trying to avoid all the noise and not get into anyone's business because he wants to look after himself and is all bitter and cynical about it and doesn't want to know about anyone's problems.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you remember that part, Barrett?
Yes.
Great. What do you remember next, Barrett?
Look, I'm going to say something and then you're going to probably correct me.
All right.
The next scene, I guess we see Rick playing chess.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. He's in a private room. There's a piano playing in the background. There's a guy singing who we find out his name is Sam.
Yep.
Business is looking good. Like it's a busy place. There's lots going on. There's talks about refugees and that sort of stuff, which is highlighting or probably aligning to what you said about people trying to sort of escape. And, what do I have here?
Well, really,
He sends a girl home because she's had too much to drink.
Yeah, I think they had a relation or some sort of
definitely some
scenario.
girl that he was hooking up with that he's not interested in anymore, and she's pretty bitter about it and kind of kicks her out. But you can tell it's just really setting the scene that he's not taking shit from anyone.
Yeah.
He controls that cafe. It's his cafe.
It's good to show that he encourages responsible service of alcohol.
Sure.
Yeah.
She drunk, go home. All right, cool.
The police
Yeah,
then
by
inform
force.
the police then inform Rick there's going to be an arrest in his cafe.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be on the charges of murder, and I guess it's all alluding to some sort of black market that's going on in relation to exit visas.
Yeah, so he has a conversation with this fellow named Ugarte or Ugarte or whatever it was, and this guy that's in the underground, black market business of. He's basically, look, this has created a market where people are smuggling people in and out to get into Lisbon, right?
Yeah.
So it's created a huge opportunity for those sorts of characters to make big bank, right? So Ugarte was one of them, and he basically got in a situation where I think 2 German freight guys got killed in part of getting some of this paperwork or his operations. And so we had this paperwork with him, and he's sort of telling Rick about it again. Rick's like, I don't want to get involved, all that sort of stuff. And he gives Rick actually the paperwork that he had acquired in that operation because he knew the heat was on him, right? And the paperwork was basically free passes to get into any access-powered occupied territory and into Lisbon, like just a clean pass, right? Which is very valuable. So he gives that to Rick. Rick reluctantly takes it. I can't remember why he took it, but I think he just wanted it to end and grabbed it. And he hides it in Sam's piano. And we don't know more about that at the time, but that was the paperwork. And then, like you said, then the French guy is saying how they're going to arrest Ugarte because they know he was involved in this attack and those German officers died or whatever happened to them. And they're really doing that as well as a show pony piece to the Nazis because that Nazi major is now in town and he's a serious dude and he's coming to visit the cafe and he sits down with all his cronies and the idea is to do it publicly in front of them to please and appease the Nazis.
Yeah, so I guess the people doing the arrest are the local police.
Yes.
The French police, yeah.
So it's just showing that they've still got control over the town.
Yeah, and to make the Nazis calm. Right.
Yes, yeah. There's no need to come and invade here. We're doing what you want us to do. We've got it under control, sort of thing. Yeah, Joel, do you have anything you want to drop in?
No. I think that was it's interesting that there's a good precursor towards that and shows the interworkings of the relationship. I think it was more so that corruption's so openly discussed in that you're having good major themes of that, and it sort of creates this uncomfortable marriage and necessary evil that occurs in this place. For people to be able to carry on with their lives and all that kind of, and we see that consistently happen throughout the film.
Yeah.
And you can see like all these refugees are getting wrecked because they're these parts and they're showing scenes how they're selling their jewelry and they're getting next to nothing from what it's worth because that market locally has been inundated with precious gems and diamonds and all sorts of stuff that should be worth way more because the market's now inundated from all the gear getting hocked that they're getting bugger all money for and it's not enough for them to actually get out of Casablanca, which is why so many of them are staying there.
Yeah, in the first place.
Yeah.
So I guess we could talk about the Germans a little bit more now. Yeah, happy with that. Please correct me if I get something wrong because very grey for me. So the Germans want help with what they refer to as an enemy of the right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Victor Laszlo.
Yeah. He's escaped from a concentration camp. He was there for
A year.
Yeah. And I didn't fully understand why they were after him, but Alex explained it to me while we were watching the movie. Something about he didn't want the secrets to get back to America.
Well, it was more of what he stood for, right? So he escaped the concentration camp. Nazis wouldn't have liked that. He obviously knows what the concentration camps are and how they were operating because it was a period of the war where the concentration camps were rumor or hearsay, right? They didn't actually know what was going on there until the Soviets started rolling through and actually started to liberate some of these camps where they actually saw what was going on there. And then you saw the Allied powers when they started, going into Germany and actually started liberating these camps, what was going on there. So until then, it was a little bit of hearsay. So here's someone who was spent a year in there who was going to go into the West and into America and tell them exactly what was happening there and, getting more support for the Allied forces.
Yeah. Another important character we meet at this point is Victor's wife. Oh, wife? Yes, wife.
Wife? Did he mention it at the point? I think it's implied.
I think it's implied. Yeah.
Victor's partner.
Spoiler alert, they're married. Yeah.
What's her name?
Elsa.
Is it Elsa or
Elsa?
I think we're going to go with
Elsa?
Are we watching Frozen? What?
Yeah.
Is it Elsa?
Let's go with Elsa.
Elsa.
Yeah.
Let it go.
It's ILSA.
Ilsa.
I say that because
Elsa.
many of the characters called her Elsa,
Yeah.
But
including
then
Rick.
I felt
people
there was-
later on started calling her something.
Yeah, there
else.
was like 2 pronunciations in the film.
Yeah.
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 But that's where we get to decide which one we like the most.
Yes, true.
Maybe they couldn't read the script either.
But yeah, so Elsa and Victor, they're together.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Victor has gotten to Casablanca, has managed to navigate all that route to get there.
Yeah.
And this Nazi major does not want him, or the entire Nazi regime doesn't want him getting into America
Yep.
and talking about his experiences, right?
Yeah. Elsa requests Sam to play a song.
Yep.
I guess there are probably some scenes a little bit before here, I think, that sort of.
Yeah, there's a look on Sam's face that he sort of recognize her.
Yeah. So we're noticing something's not quite right, but she's asked Sam to play a song, and he starts playing the song. Rick comes immediately in and stops it.
Yep.
What the future brings as time goes by.
Sam, I thought I told you never to play.
And says, Sam, I told you not to play that song.
And then sees Elsa.
Yes.
And then that's when you know these two know each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing I was confused on at this point, which I had to think about a little bit, was, Elsa and Victor have just freely walked in this cafe, a few tables away from the Nazis. I'm thinking, well, if they really don't want him, going over there, why don't they just go over there and arrest him and kill him now?
Yeah.
But it seemed to be that because it was still French soil that
Yeah.
wasn't, controlled.
Yes.
They were asserting their influence.
Against the rules of the war, essentially.
They couldn't just go and do what they wanted like they were doing probably in Paris. So
Exactly.
Yeah, it seemed to be they still had some limitations, which is why they couldn't just go and murder him.
Yeah. The next scenes after that, so we see Rick in a dark room. Obviously, the business is now closed for the night. He's sitting there sort of drinking his sorrows away. Sam comes in, sees him. They have a bit of a discussion about this girl. They don't really go into it too deeply at this point, but he does ask him to play the song.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, you told me not to play that song." And he goes, "No, I want you to. You can play it for her. You can play it for me," kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as soon as that song starts playing, flashback.
The big flashback scene.
Big flashback. Do you want
Big heckin' flashback.
Yeah.
to carry the flashback?
I can't remember exactly. It's just like they met in the place and they're driving around and she's in around whatever screen they've got in the background, how they're filming back days, and then she's driving and she's nuzzling him on the neck and all that kind of thing. And then it sort of progresses and keeps going to the scene. And I think I'm missing a couple fill-in, but yeah, goes back to the scene in the cafe and he wants to marry her. And she's like, oh no. And you can tell there's a sudden change in her face. This is the day before, or the day of the Germans invade France.
Yes.
So
And this is where things sort of change. And he's like, oh, let's get married. We'll go to there. We'll get married. Or wasn't the train engineer marry us? And she's like, oh yeah. And so they agree on a plan to meet at the train station at, was it 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock? Can't remember. 5 o'clock. That's it.
Yeah, 5.
Go to the hotel. And she's like, oh no. I'll meet you at the train station, and I'll see you there. Goes to the train station in the pouring rain. Sam meets him there, and Sam said, can't find Elsa. Don't know where she's gone, but she said the hotel left you this note, and it says, I'm sorry I can't make it. Please forget about me, but remember that I'll always love you.
Yeah.
And then he's just in stun mode.
yeah, he got
mode.
dumped via text.
And he
Yeah.
goes from happy Rick to the Rick that we know
No,
now,
the
right?
shapes
Super
him.
bitter and
Yeah.
cynical.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything in that flashback?
It's
not-
That's pretty much it. Like they were very
Yeah.
close, obviously.
Yeah.
She did mention in that flashback that her husband, like she did have a husband, and that he died, and that's important. So
Yes.
that he died in the war, right?
Yeah.
And that she was like a widow, basically, and then they met each other and fell off.
Yeah.
You know what would have been cool if we reenacted that flashback and we just put that in there as we're talking over it. And we had Joel as Bogart and me as Elsa, and we just did the flashback scene.
Oh, no.
We should do that.
Where are you taking this? Oh my goodness. All right. Let's bring this right back on track.
But hang on, just before, around the same time, the flashback scene.
Yeah.
So when they're in this cafe, Victor, he does have a conversation with some people that are allied to his cause, I guess.
Yes.
And finds out, because he's trying to have a chat with that Agate guy to try and get paperwork, the papers he needs to get into Lisbon, but they tell him that, oh no, Agate's been arrested. So that ship's kind of sailed. So it's trying to now Victor's trying to find a way out. So his plan's gone now, and he's trying to work out how to get him and Elsa out of there. Which there's no solution at that stage.
Yeah. I wanted to weave my next fact in here because you sort of mentioned it. At this point, the Germans were going to invade Paris.
They've probably invaded France. They've invaded France, right?
Yeah, but they're about to take over Paris. They were going to be there the next day. That's why they were sort of getting on that train and leaving. This movie was obviously set in World War II and had World War II, as a part of the plotline and all of that. Did you guys read that the movie was rushed into release? So it was released earlier than anticipated because they wanted to take advantage of the Allied invasion of North Africa.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh.
So they were like, this is, Casablanca stuff had a lot of publicity going on at the moment.
Yeah.
It's all in the papers.
There, they were talking about Africa, yeah.
So then
borderline propaganda.
They just punched the movie out.
Movies around this time of propaganda.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
They punched the movie out to meet that.
That's true, yes.
That
That's
timeline.
true.
Right on the coattails of that.
I've got a fun fact too, while we're talking about Humphrey Bogart and, Rick and Elsa now being in contact with each other in the movie. So Ingrid Bergman is the actress that played Elsa.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Humphrey Bogart plays Rick, right? But Bergman was 5 centimeters taller than Humphrey Bogart.
What? Oh, no, you stole one of my facts.
Yeah, go on, boy. Yeah. So she's way taller than him. And they didn't like that, right? So it caused problems. So in all these scenes, I was really paying attention to it, and they've done it, and you can see it happening. So Bogart either had to stand on blocks, like with blocks or step shoes.
Well, he had things on the bottom of his shoes to make him taller.
Or like on the scenes when he was on the couch, if you go back, you'll see he's sitting on cushions to make him taller.
I also noticed his hats sit quite high on his head to also give him
because he's a shorty.
an advantage. So I think he was 5'8". She was 5'8.8". Yeah, so she was just
5 centimeters or 2 inches.
Yeah.
So
We love a short king.
Yeah.
Has someone who's 5'10" and the shortest of the three of us right here. I feel him very much so.
Yeah. Well, do you have those blocks? Are you sitting on some cushions?
Do you want us to get you some cushions?
No, please don't embarrass me any further.
All right, back to the plot. We've got to keep this thing on track. So, we're back in real time. So that all of that we just spoke about was flashback. What do we got?
Well, look, really what happens next is something we talked about. So we're piecing this together because, we're not silly. So we've worked out that she's married to Victor.
Victor, yep.
And we're thinking, okay, so Victor didn't die? And that's what we're thinking at the time, right?
Yeah.
And then does it come out later, or was it because your wife spoiled it?
Oh my goodness.
So I can't remember if it happened organically in the
we
movie.
First thing we thought, okay, her husband died, she's gone Rick, left Rick, and then she's gone and met this Victor guy separately.
Yeah.
It didn't click initially that could have been the dead husband.
Well, I was thinking that.
And then the discussion happens like, how long is it too long before you move on to the next
That's what I want to get
relationship?
into, because then I'm like, okay, we know he was in the concentration. If that's the guy that she was originally married to, and he wasn't actually dead, he was in the camp for a year, but, by the time we're looking at this flashback, she's been with him for a little bit. So, she's I think best case scenario, she waited 6 months and then she hooked up with Rick. And so then I'm asking the question, well, what is a reasonable amount of time to wait? If you think your husband or your wife's dead, how long do you wait?
I don't know.
I think that's beyond any of us to comprehend. It's all context based,
It just felt quick.
don't know.
I'm just going to say it felt quick.
On those grounds, on that initial assumption, it probably felt quick.
Yeah. But then I asked Brooke, Barrett's wife, how long she would wait, and you did not want to know the answer.
How long was she waiting?
She didn't tell me. I'm just.
She said she would be in bed for a couple of months at least.
That was nice. I like that. She did say that. She didn't say how long she would truly wait, but she said she'd be in bed for a few months. That's nice.
There's a guaranteed level of depression there, which is fair.
Yeah. So it sounds like she's going to wait longer than Elsa did.
Yeah. I'm resisting urges to drop in jokes here. I'm going to bring us back on track. So the next scene after the flashback is we're based in real life. Elsa walks in. Rick asks why she's here. Right, and I think somewhere in here, I don't remember exactly where it was. Maybe it was a little bit earlier. A famous line is said.
Oh yeah,
all the gin bars in all the all the gin bars in all the land. Hang on.
Yep. She's walked into this one.
She walks into this one.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah, there's a few famous ones.
Which I never realised. He's
Yeah,
always
neither
never
I.
watched Casablanca. The only reference of Casablanca I've had is from that scene from The Simpsons.
Yes.
Where there's the alternate ending of Casablanca, which was absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the quote, and you'll mention more throughout the thing.
Is there still some like conspiracy that there's an alternate ending or something?
Must be, maybe.
Oh, we should have looked into that. I feel like there's something there.
all right.
All right.
Anyways, so they're talking about their breakup.
Yep.
Why she left him. We don't really get too much information. She's holding her cards pretty close.
Yes, she keeps saying that, there's a good reason that she still loves him, but, she's not telling him clearly why she didn't rock up at the train station.
Yeah. But he should be able to put two and two together at this point.
Well, we did at this point.
Well, maybe with the help of my wife's reading ahead on Wikipedia and then ruining the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Sakesbrook.
The next scenes we see are the Germans are trying to get some info from Laszlo, but he won't give it up. They're desperately looking for these letters. All right, the ones that are hidden in the piano that I somehow missed that piece. But you've
The first 5 minutes of the movie.
yes, I was too busy writing stuff down. And Rick is desperately after answers from Elsa.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then I've got here, Laszlo was her husband. Just as a little reminder for me to understand what was going on.
A couple of things to mention, which is worth mentioning, but let's just get it out in the open now. So Victor is definitely her husband.
Yep.
Now, she did definitely think that he died.
Yep.
Because he was in this camp and all the rest of it, and he was pretty aggressively fighting in the rebellions, I suppose, wherever he was. So she did genuinely think he was dead, but it turns out he wasn't. So when she found out that he was alive, it was basically that day when she was supposed to go to the train station and didn't leave with Rick because her husband was actually alive.
Yeah.
That's what happened, right?
That's it.
But Rick doesn't know this yet. A couple other things that happen as well. Don't know exactly if this is in the right chronological order, but he rigs that roulette game to help that Bulgarian couple.
I think that was a
out.
bit later on.
Does he?
In the, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it affects things too much, but I thought it was just nice to show that, as much as he's a real cynical character, he did have some sense of humanity in him and rebellion in him, because
Yes.
they talked a lot about him before getting to Casablanca, fighting in other wars, some Spanish conflict and other bits and pieces, and it was always on the right side.
Yeah.
But he just kind of, shrugged it off as, just doing it
making
for the
money.
money.
Yeah.
But clearly he's passionate about the right side. You don't agree, Baron?
Well, he is running a cooked gambling.
Well, yeah, but he
room.
uses that cooked gambling room
Yeah.
to help out this Bulgarian
He
couple.
does do the right thing, but
Yeah.
this whole time he's been running
Well, yeah, it wants money too, right? So,
and he lets the police win.
I mean, the main protagonist of the film, I guess, in Rick, is that there's always a weakness that you can discover.
Yes.
And so is that his sentimental side will always come through
Yeah.
amongst the rational decisions he's been taking in the lead up to it.
absolutely. And basically, that Bulgarian couple, they just were trying to get enough money to get the passes themselves to get out of there. And he rigs this little roulette game, lands on 22 a couple times, and gets them the money so that he can get out of there. So that was nice. It was a nice moment.
Yeah.
Have I said that
Between
right?
Rick and his wife. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Laszlo has picked up that there's tension between his wife and Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he wants to know what's going on. And Rick pretty much says, why don't you ask your wife?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I thought that was
And right after that scene, so they hear some commotion, and Rick goes outside the door, and the Germans are singing their little anthem.
That scene was actually really good. That contrast in there, and shows that he's in there. He storms straight out. Here's the Nazi anthem being sung, and then Rick goes straight in. Laszlo goes straight to the band and said, "Play the French anthem."
He does.
So go play, and he does, and they start singing, and the voices power, and the Germans go louder, and then the people power comes back in, and they just go, and they go loud. The Germans get drowned out, and it's victory. And which is great. I guess in terms of the scene and that, the French resolve is not completely, the French were known for being surrenderers, and that challenged that in that film. But then that pushed the Germans' resolve in another direction to become a bit more pushy, a bit more violent, I guess.
Bitter.
Into we got to fix this now because clearly this guy or the French prefect of police clearly has no control over the people.
Yeah, and so the Germans are pissed off by that commotion, and what does that major do? He goes to the French police commander, and what does he tell him?
Tell him shut it down.
I advise that this place be shut up at once.
But everybody's having such a good time.
Yes, much too good a time. The place is to be closed.
But I've no excuse to close it.
Find one.
Everybody's to leave here immediately. This cafe is closed until further notice.
Shut down the cafe.
Shut down the cafe.
Which has been protected by the French, police guys because of the money.
It really is a toys out of the cot moment.
Absolutely. and the best part, funniest part of the movie for me then, so then French guy does as he's told to keep the peace with the Nazis, goes over to Rick and says, I'm shutting this place down. And Rick goes, on what grounds? So, well, you've been running an illegal gambling thing back there.
How can you close me up? On what ground?
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Everybody out at once.
And then just as he does that,
Croupier comes.
then the guy comes and he goes, here's your gambling winnings, sir. Love that.
I love the little bits of humor throughout that movie. It just sort of broke down the seriousness of it, which is really good.
Hey, the French guy goes, oh, thank you. Shut it down.
Yeah.
The hypocrisy was real.
Yeah.
Anything more to add in before we start to talk about Rick getting arrested?
I just want to go back a little bit in that flashback scene.
Oh, no, I've jumped ahead.
you jumped
Sorry.
ahead?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Just look quickly back to that flashback scene, and Rick asks Elsa, where were you 10 years ago? And then she goes, braces.
Oh, yeah.
And then he goes, and then she asks, well, you're getting a job. And which makes me really wonder what the age gap is between the two of them.
I did that math in my head, actually. So I'm assuming she would have gotten braces probably the age of 15. So 10 years, she's 25. He could be getting his
21.
first job at, let's say 21, 10 years, 31, but he definitely looked at least 40. So I'm going to say he was 40 and she was 25.
Whether that flies today, doesn't matter.
No,
Don't
just
know.
ask Leonardo DiCaprio.
No, she's 25. That's the limit, isn't it?
I know, I'm currently dating a 19-year-old, so...
Yeah, it's 25 and under.
I know,
Yeah, it's just not anything over 25.
Well, anyway, I thought that was a very interesting
All right.
part of that.
So
part,
at this part of the movie, I found out that Rick had the documents all along.
Yeah. So we had to have a pizza break, and then I ran through the whole movie for Barrett.
Yeah.
What?
There's a kiss.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is MA back then, probably.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a kiss between Rick and Elsa.
Well, so what happens is she sneaks out after Victor leaves to go to some rebellious meeting against the Nazis. Anyway, she sneaks out, go to Rick, and she's trying to, because they know that he's got the papers, right? So because some other guy told Victor and Elsa that, hey, Rick's actually got papers here. You want to talk to him.
Yeah.
So Elsa tries to get him to provide the papers for her and Victor.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. Then you just see her basically just go through all the motions of different things she could try. First it was pleading and begging. Then it was anger. Then she pulled a gun on him.
Yeah.
And he's like,
The 7
do
stages
me a
of
favor.
grief.
Yeah. She's going through all the stages of grief. And then it turns to, here kissing him. And I'm thinking, okay, just to play now to try and get the paperwork from him. But it's not really that. She's kind of like just melts and, goes back to, look, I still love you. This is what happened. He's my husband. He wasn't really dead. But, you have to, and she goes to him, you have to do the thinking for us because, I don't know what to do here because whatever she does, she's kind of going to be a bitch in the situation, right? So
Correct. And
Yeah.
she admits that she still loves him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, I hope I'm not jumping too far ahead because I stopped taking notes a little bit. I was very lost. So Laszlo's on to Rick.
Oh, I don't know.
I wouldn't say, look, he's aware of what's going on, but he's not. He's got too much going on.
Yeah, I don't think he's
about.
that threatened by Rick.
He's not worried about Rick. Not to the fact that he's not threatening. He knows something's going on between him and his wife, but he's got so much other shit going on. You can tell his priority is the war effort, right?
Yeah.
The police are sort of. Look, you're going to have to explain this further. Rick is arrested.
Well, hang on. Before that, so what happens is while he's with Elsa in his room making out. I think that's the limit of what happened.
Yeah, pretty much.
Unclear.
Yeah. And then it skips ahead to a bit at the end, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe they did it. I don't know. I reckon they did it. I'm going to say right here on the podcast, they had sex. Whether that's true or not, doesn't matter.
Barrett fact.
Barrett fact. So
Those are facts that don't need to be fact checked, by the way. If we say it's a Barrett fact, can't be wrong.
it can't be wrong. And honestly, I don't think it's that far from the truth. We should really dig into this.
It sounds
I
like
reckon
something
they had
like Trump would say, I know it's a Barrett fact. Great, huge.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I heard from Barrett. Must be true.
It must be true. I think it's true.
Yeah.
They just couldn't show it, right?
Yeah.
So while they're having sex, Victor, he's at some meeting that's getting harassed now by the Nazis. They find him.
Yeah.
And he's running away with some other guy that works in the cafe. And they end up in the cafe to hide from the Nazis, right? And Victor's got a cut in his arm that is kind of patching up. Rick comes out because he hears the noise, sees him down there thinking, oh shit, I've got his naked wife in my bed. Made that up, but maybe.
Barrett fact.
The Hays Code would not allow that.
But by this point, they're both fully clothed.
They're fully clothed,
but they had
yeah,
sex.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And so he comes out, thinks, oh crap, Elsa's in my room, calls the other guy that works there, not Victor, to come up, makes up some bullshit that the light's still on, tells him that, hey, clear her out so I don't get caught here. And then goes down and speaks with Victor. Obviously doesn't mention the fact that his wife's in his bedroom. And just says, oh, you okay? Yeah, just putting the Band-Aid on. They're talking some, I don't know, politics and, go to the war effort stuff. I can't remember what else they talked about. I don't think it was too much.
No, I don't think so. No.
But then
I think the plan, was it?
but then the French police guy comes in.
Yep.
And they say, hey, you're arrested to Victor for some crime that they haven't declared.
Yeah.
And then they arrest Rick, don't
No.
No, I think I think you skipped ahead because they devised a plan there regarding I'll give you guys the ticket, meet me at this time.
they? Yeah.
At the thing.
Yep.
And then he goes and sees the police guy and say, hey, Laszlo's going to be having this in his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's where the setup happens. But
Okay.
then it's a double play
Yeah.
on that setup.
Yes. Well, anyways, while he's arrested, they make a plan. Somewhere
Yeah.
in there, a plan is made. And Laszlo is going to be the fall guy in this
Yes,
plan.
that's it, yeah.
That's how I can summarize it. All right, so that plan starts to come into action.
Yep.
All right, and there's a plot twist. All right, Rick has a gun, and he,
I love it too because he's always holding it like this by his hip.
yeah.
It's like that's such an inefficient way to point a gun at someone.
And Rick sends Elsa to the plane or to meet at the plane with Laszlo. So I guess he's double crossed the police at this point.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's set it up like Laszlo's going to be the fall guy. The police are there to arrest him. He's got all the evidence.
Yeah.
They've set this all up. But then Rick pulls out a gun, tells the police out to come out of the situation, and then sends Laszlo and Elsa
To the plane. Well, he tells the cop to call the airport and say, hey, please get 2 people ready to plane go to Lisbon. They've got the ticket to leave.
Yes.
Let him go.
But he didn't call.
No, he
the airport,
called the German guy.
the German major. So
Yes.
the German major's like shit. So he's running off to the airport.
Yeah.
So you're right. Then they're going to the airport as well. So Elsa's under the impression at this time too that her and Rick are actually going to run off together and only get Victor on the plane. Because she's now saying to him that, oh no, I want to be with you, not Victor. She's all over the place, right?
Yes, yeah.
So then they get to the airport, basically. What happens next?
Rick lets her go.
Yeah, Rick, they have this discussion about how it's going to be more meaningful. That deep down, you really love Laszlo a lot more than you love me. Ours was just a quick little fling in Paris. It means a lot. I'll always keep this cherish his memory. But for the sake of you two, you both need to hop in that plane right now and go.
Well,
essentially.
What's the
absolutely.
sentence?
He actually says, you'll regret this. Maybe not today and maybe not tomorrow, but one day.
If that plane leaves the ground and you're not with him, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
There you go.
And
What is it he said?
we will always have Paris.
But what about us?
We'll always have Paris.
Oh, yes. I wrote that
Very,
at the bottom there.
very famous line.
Very famous.
Yeah, and
No,
I think I don't know because I guess some of the comments the French guy made after, but I'm not convinced. I don't know what Elsa wanted. I don't think she really knew.
No.
And I don't think I don't think that Rick wanted her to go. I think Rick definitely wanted her to stay. I don't even think he believed what he was telling her.
No.
But I know that was the way to get her on the plane.
Yeah.
Right? He was trying to do the right thing. But, I don't think Elsa... I think if Elsa stayed, if Rick got her to stay, she would have stayed. And I think she would have wanted that just as much. So I think she was truly conflicted.
But I don't blame her for being conflicted because imagine you assuming that your husband's dead and then he rocks up in the moment that you're about to flee with Rick and then it all changes like that. And then you've been with Lazarus for that long and then you go see Rick again when you never thought you could see Rick over again. So I don't blame her the way she's thinking or doesn't know what she wants because that's pretty traumatic.
And I think Rick just takes himself out of the equation. He wants Elsa.
I think,
and he just takes himself out of it.
Yeah, I think Rick probably was the most rational person in that entire movie.
Big time.
Yeah,
Apart from all the alcoholism and then all that kind of thing.
But he also
was actually very
and his illegal gambling ring.
It was very rational from the way he acted for a while.
It was selfless, but especially because he knew at that time too that once even if say it was just Victor that got on the plane, well he just held up this French commander guy like he's isn't shit, and he actually said like all that's waiting here for you is concentration camp if you stay with me. So I think he probably did it thinking that, his life was going to be ruined. He didn't want to ruin hers, even though he wanted to stay, right? So I think, again, it was just an act of pure selflessness.
Yeah,
that's it.
So they get on the plane together and take off. I don't know if he's already there or that's when he arrives, the German.
Yeah, he drives, the car pulls up as the plane starts.
As the plane's taking off.
Yeah.
The German guy's not happy with what's just happened and Rick just shoots him.
Get away from that phone.
I would advise you not to interfere.
I was willing to shoot Captain Reno, and I'm willing to shoot you.
The German guy puts his gun out first, and then Rick goes, and then they have a Mexican standoff, and then...
Yeah, and it looks like, Rick is in the shit now because he's double-crossed the police. He's just shot a German sergeant or whatever he is. It's all, basically going to crumbling around him. And
the French guy.
He goes, oh, what are we going to do now? And the French police officer says... Oh, we'll just round up the usual suspects.
Major Strasser has been shot. Round up the usual suspects.
Like they're going to try and pin it on someone else?
Yeah. Like at that moment, it's like, oh, he's not going to, ruin Rick.
Rick double-crossed him not an hour ago, and he's still got his back. And
amazing.
I guess they walk off together into the... I'm going to say sunset, but it's not really the sunset. It's just into the distance. And what does he say?
Oh, he's talking to his French pal. Yeah. And Rick goes, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Mm-hmm. Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Amazing. I can't believe that line was in there too.
Yeah.
I use that line all the time.
4 key quotes in that we're using every day.
There's like 10 of them. There's like a whole list, and I did start to write them down, but turns out the ones I've written down are all the ones that we've talked about because I did this research before we recorded.
While we're at the end of the movie, I've got a great fun fact. I don't know if you guys picked up on this. So the scene there where you see the plane being worked on in the background, it's just winding up before they get on the plane to go take off. So that scene, the background of the final scene where the airplane is with people walking around it, so that was staged using little people as extras. Yep.
No.
Yep. And proportionate cardboard plane, right? Used and then fog in there. We saw like fog in there to make it look convincing.
What?
So it was a little cardboard, little plane with little people running around it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
And it carried it all the way through to Willy Wonka.
Yeah, the Oompa Loompas are actually from Casablanca.
Oh, wow.
30 years later.
Right.
I think I love that fact.
That's the movie.
Yeah.
Great movie. I actually liked it. I thought someone had never seen it before.
It was a good movie. The one-liners were brilliant. I thought the cinematography, excellent. Acting, really good. So we obviously won Best Picture, but it won a couple other awards and was nominated for 8. So 3 total wins, 8 nominations.
Far out.
Yeah.
And that's an era where there wasn't many movie awards in the first place. Nowadays you've got X amount of film festivals and you get 50, 60 different nominations.
Absolutely. What I was really surprised about, though, is I thought like Humphrey Bogart nailed it. Like he smashed it. He was nominated for Best Actor, but he didn't win.
What? Who won that? Do you know?
I didn't check.
No.
Yeah.
I was pissed off he didn't win. And then
this happens a lot on the podcast. Someone will say something, the other one will be intrigued with what they've said and ask a further question, and no one's ever done the research to back it up. It's like we've got the icing, but we don't have the rest of the cake.
That's right. Icing's the best part. So
Yeah,
it's fine.
exactly.
All right. I think Joel's got to go first for this.
Well, any other fun facts?
I don't have any facts, and
No,
Joel looks a little bit worried because he doesn't.
No, I created a flow chart on here. So it's like,
chart.
yeah, it's like, you know, the thing where you draw it like on the pinboard, you get a string in the cross.
This is not that kind of podcast, mate.
It's now a murder mystery
We're
podcast.
the worst.
All right?
Yeah.
We know that you're the best in your field, but we're the worst in our field.
So like Rick was the middle, and there's a line leading to Sam, there's a line leading to Elsa, and then the Laszlo, and it was a love triangle, but not really love triangle. Then Rick and Laszlo, what I put between the line there was dollar signs. There's the same when Laszlo offered Rick millions, hundreds of thousands of francs to get out there, and then Rick was just French, and then Nazis, and then the line between French and Nazis was singing scene.
Ooh.
So that's all I got out of it. Not really. Oh, and then Elsa lied about marriage. So that was my mind map to help me understand what the movie was about. But no, it was an awesome movie.
How many?
Well, the only other fun fact I had, it just came to my head. I did notice this. So Humphrey Bogart, poor guy, he did not last much longer after this movie.
Really?
Yeah, he died in, I think it was 1956 or something.
Yeah.
He was only 57 years old. He had cancer. It turns out he was a heavy smoker and drinker, not just in Casablanca, but in real life too.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So, how many Joels out of Joel do you give this movie?
How many Joels is it out of?
5 Joels.
You're allowed 5 Joels.
I'm giving it 4.5 Joels.
4.5 Joels.
Yes.
Ooh, wow.
Nice.
I mean, it's not as great as the castle, but
That's there's nothing better than
nothing better than the castle.
Nothing better than
That's
you
a
know?
6.
If anyone from non-Australia hasn't seen the movie, the Australian classic The Castle, highly recommend it.
Yeah.
I wonder if Andy's seen it.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, can you do like side ep, like Patreon eps, and just have Mandy watch the castle?
What's a Patreon?
Do you know what a Patreon is?
No, we're not.
Oh no,
we're
it's
not
just like
good at this.
it's like
Just simple
bonus
men.
eps. You do a bonus ep, or you do a side. So you get
Yeah,
people who haven't.
special edition.
Can you help us be successful? You are our CFO. I don't know if we
crap,
brought
forgot
that
about
up.
that.
Yeah,
I
CFO.
forgot about that.
We're in actually financial hardship at the moment.
I spent all the money in Adelaide, by the way.
We've spent all our money on beer, and
Yeah.
you know we're not.
Well, Joel, you're going to blow up after this.
Yeah, you're going to become kind of a big deal.
All right, so 4.5 for Joel.
Yeah.
Barrett, how many Barretts out of 5?
2.5.
2.5. Wow, it's pretty savage.
Bruh.
Was it because you didn't pay attention?
It's because I didn't understand what was going
No,
on.
I think once Brooke ruined the plot, Barrett just stopped paying interest.
Okay, what do I give it? Okay, so what I really liked about this movie, like the acting and the cinematography, really good. The storyline was actually pretty cool, pretty exciting. I really liked that the movie was shorter and faster paced. That really was important to me. I reckon I gain an extra whole star just because of that.
Yep.
So for me, I'm going to give it a 4.
Ooh,
I'm going to give it a 4. It was a good movie.
I think I've really dropped off because
Got your Margaret Pomeranz over here.
Honestly, if it was a 2-hour plus movie and slightly slower paced, it would have gotten a 3.5 at most.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
100%.
I think there was enough depth in that movie, which would in that runtime, that allowed things to be tied up, things to be explained well.
Because it's not like a whole lot of plot, really. When you think about it, it's getting these 2 people on a plane and there's a love triangle. That's it.
I think the only downside for me that why I took that half Joel off was the single camera frame, the single camera scenes, which went for a bit too long, which then for you struggle to maintain focus in that dialogue.
Yeah,
Definitely. But yeah, look, good movie.
Yeah, good movie and good beer. So Joel actually turned up with these beers.
Yeah.
All right. So
Fat Brew Club.
we're not,
West Perth.
Yeah.
CFO. Yeah. Perth Brewery.
Yep.
Is a what is it? Fubba Bubba.
Hubba Bubba, like Hubba Bubba.
That's a good play on words.
Yeah.
PH. Yeah.
Yep. Nice.
Acidity.
Strawberry Bubblegum Sour by Fat Brewing from Perth.
Fat Brew Club.
Isn't a sponsor.
Yeah, but could be.
Could be.
We know people.
And Joel, I just want to say thanks for coming on our podcast. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Hey.
And on that note,
Yeah.
bye.
Thanks for listening.
See you guys.
Ba, 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 ba.